What is it on a channel?
It's Tim Robinson. It's on Netflix.
Okay. It's good though, huh?
I'm sure you've seen plenty of memes from it on Twitter. It's just, they're all over. Yeah, it's really funny.
Maybe I'll take a look. I've heard the name, not familiar with the content.
We're all looking for the guy who did this meme, the guy in the hot dog suit.
I don't know. I'll check it out.
All right,
anyway,
check it out.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Stokastic.com NFL Strategy Show Ownership Edition. I'm Dave Loughran at Loughfield_D on the Twitters, LOUGHY_D. Joined by Neil Orfield at PlayerQDFS, going through all of our first run of ownership today, looking at our favorite top stacks, using the top stack tool, which you get 3 free days of all of our NFL content. If you're interested, just use the link in the description or the one in chat. Everything free, no strings attached. All of our NFL tools completely free for 3 days. What's going on, man?
Not a whole lot. We got to get you watching some I Think You Should Leave. I didn't think there was anybody at this point who had not heard of I Think You Should Leave, but you definitely need to check it out.
Is it like kind of irreverent? What kind of?
It's weird. I guess irreverent. It's short sketches. Very just strange. Everyone's different. I don't really know how to describe it, but just check it out. I think you'll like it.
All right.
I was thinking about this show from last week. Sorry, I'm just changing the subject because I figured you wanted to get into the football. Thinking about how I think we kind of nailed it on this show last week, and then throughout the week, my perspectives changed in a way that hurt my bottom line. Like on the Lions and Seahawks game, we loved it on this show last week, and then by the time Sunday came around, the ownerships had come up and was less interested. So I at least kind of got off the best game of the week, and that was pretty sad for me.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about that game and what it did in the Millie once you see that Millie Maker winning lineup. But yeah, I will watch that show. The only sketch comedy shows I've ever truly enjoyed. So Chappelle Show, that's a given, right?
Yep.
I think Key and Peele, one of the greatest sketch comedy shows ever created. And then Gillian Keys, which you need to watch. It's Shane Gillis. Yeah, okay. It was all on YouTube. It's brilliant. Truly brilliant stuff.
I'll check it out.
I went and saw him in Philly in the summer, and he just had a special drop. That's what Josh and I were talking about before the show. But I will check this out. I will report back to you, Neil.
All right.
Anyway, we're happy to have you guys with us as always. You know the drill. Hit that thumbs up. Helps us immensely around here. Otherwise, I wouldn't ask. Takes 2 seconds. Atone for your sins. Help us appease the YouTube overlords and subscribe to the channel. If you want new, fresh DFS content every single day delivered to you on a platter. And if you want to join down below. You see all those badges in chat, free super chats each month, the custom emojis, and we do some fun stuff like the survivor pools for all our members. And podcast listeners, hit that review, rating, whatever, preferably positive, helps us a lot. And subscribe. All right, so winning Millie Maker lineup, here we go, was Geno Smith, Austin Eckler, Jamal Williams, DK Metcalf, Josh Reynolds, Tyler Lockett, TJ Hawkinson, Josh Jacobs, and the Eagles. That's 6 players from the Detroit-Seattle game.
Yeah, and that's the second time already this year through 4 weeks that we've seen the winning Millie Maker lineup have a massive game stack where it was at least 2 players on the run back side and 2 along.
Which was the other one?
I don't remember. I remember that it happened because we talked about it with Alex, and he was speculating that maybe this kind of build would go over-owned going forward, just because people saw how much.
Miami, Baltimore.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Miami, Baltimore just went off. So that's the second time already that we've seen just these massive game stacks go off and work out. And yeah, this lineup, I mean, looks like a good lineup. You know, obviously it's very well correlated with those 6 pieces all from the same game, and then had the correct one-offs with Eckler, Jacobs, and then Eagles defense. So worked out really well.
Yeah, and it was 3 run backs with a double stack. So actually more from the opposing team without the quarterback.
Yeah, I hadn't even noticed that part of it. Yeah, that's pretty.
Yeah, it was nuts. Williams over Penny. So,
and if you were paying attention, this lineup just barely beat out a one person entered the same lineup like 30 times. That person got third with a lineup that they duped themselves like 30 times. So that was pretty nuts. Almost won the 1 through 30 spots. So that would have been fun for that person, not as fun for everybody else.
Yeah, I saw that. That was insane.
Yeah, I mean they were the same, obviously same game stack.
Sure. Andrew said Miami, Baltimore didn't have 2 bringbacks. It was just Tua, Tyreek, Waddle, and Andrews. Yeah, that's true. So I don't know what game it was, if there was one.
Oh, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that's all it was. Okay.
Either way, we've seen game stacks clearly win it, not just, team stacks and some double stacks with the run back, which happens all the time. Anyway, let's dive into this one. We got 12 games to touch on. We don't go game by game here. That is reserved for tomorrow's marathon matchup show. If you missed the first look show with Ben Rasa and myself yesterday, you can go catch that. And if you're into betting, all of our betting content over on the Odd Shopper channel. I already have a Thursday Night Football video out. I'll have one out for every game later tonight. And we've been having fun with that and a good time making some money as well. All right. Running backs. This is mostly where I thought it would be, outside of one guy who we'll talk about that's sub 10%. We're just using arbitrary numbers as like running back chalk, because otherwise it's not easy to differentiate. Jamal Williams at 18% looks like we're already projecting for no DeAndre Swift this week.
Yep, it looks like that is the assumption going in. Yeah, it's been tough talking about like chalk on these shows. This show, and then I'm doing on the contrary now. So I've been trying to ask people like, what chalk are you willing to eat? And it's like, you look at it, there's no real chalk so far this year. There haven't been any. Yeah, exactly. These 17%, that's not really chalky. That's not, so much chalk that you need to get away from it. So it's been a little bit tough to have these chalk discussions because we just haven't really seen a ton of chalk. So we can talk about the chalkiest, I guess. So as you say, Jamal Williams looking like he's going to get about 18% ownership going up against a Patriots defense that is 31st in rush defense in terms of DVOA per Football Outsiders. So, the matchup is great. He's looking way over-owned according to the Boom Bust tool. His price has come up since last week. He's at 6,500 now. So yeah, 18% ownership, optimal 12% of the time, and Boom's 7% of the time. Just looks over-owned in the tool. So he's somebody that I'll probably be underweight to the field if he does come in this high ownership.
Yeah, not nearly as good a spot as last time. I'm not saying the Patriots are a juggernaut defense, but they're definitely not last week's matchup against Seattle. Plus, I'm on Russ St. Brown. It'll be interesting to see if he's back. Some of these other guys, though, I really do get why they're pulling ownership, but you made a good point. These aren't all super chalky guys. Like, yes, they're going to be relatively popular, but Fournette against Atlanta, I don't anticipate 3 carries again. They were down from the jump. I mean, look, they fumbled the kickoff. And the Chiefs just went on to score. And from there, it was Mahomes couldn't be stopped. I'm writing that game off. Alvin Kamara, assuming he plays, and I assume he will because Latavius Murray was sent back down to the practice squad and then scooped up by the Broncos. So that would suggest that he will be active, at least I would think. He's at 14% in a really good spot. Best matchup he's had all year. Eckler. And then Dalvin Cook against Chicago. That game hasn't been there yet, but if there's ever a week for Dalvin Cook to go nuclear, it feels like this could be the one, and you're getting him at, low double-digit ownership.
Yeah, a lot of really interesting spots here and some chalk that I am willing to eat there. I want to start with Leonard Fournette, though. Are you concerned at all with the Rachaad White getting 24 snaps in this game to Leonard Fournette's 39? I mean, that's just a lower proportion than you usually see from Fournette. You think it was just an outlier, though, the entire game just because of the game script?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, because Fournette still, it's not like Fournette wasn't heavily involved in the passing game either, right? I mean, he was still targeted 7 times in that game. It got away from him.
But I mean, that's what surprises me because he is a pretty good receiver. So it's like, why are they going to Rachaad White if Leonard Fournette is a pretty good receiver? Is it just that they want to get Rachaad White more involved? I don't know. I think that most likely you are correct, though, that Leonard Fournette is obviously going to hold on to the lion's share and probably a good bulk of the carries. I have a slight concern there, but our tools are not really factoring it in too much so far, and I think that's probably correct. Great matchup against the Falcons, obviously 16% ownership. We have him optimal 24% of the time, so Leonard Fournette just looks like a smash spot this weekend against the Falcons, and that makes sense against the Falcons defense. Kamara, as you say, we're expecting him to play. Another great matchup this week against Seattle. 14% ownership, 18% optimal. We could finally see that Kamara game we've been waiting on. We'll have to, I guess, wait and make sure that he is active, of course, but about as good as you can get against that Seahawks defense. Better against the rush than against the pass. But, Kamara is involved in all facets of the game, and they're still 19th against the rush in DVOA. So just a weak defense for Seattle. And we just saw Jamal Williams go off against them. So if Jamal Williams can have that kind of game, I think that Alvin Kamara can too. So I like that play. Yeah, Dalvin Cook looks great. Hasn't really done it yet this year. Now he's going up against the Bears, who are 24th in rush DVOA. So great spot for Dalvin Cook. We've got him at 11% ownership, 10% optimal. I'm willing to eat that number. 7,300. The price tag has come down. Dalvin Cook for his volume. I mean, I'll pay for that volume against this Bears defense any day. Austin Eckler, definitely a spot that I missed on last week. I didn't think that he was involved enough to put up a 3 touchdown game, and turns out you can do it against the worst defense, one of the worst rush defenses in the league. He was capable of doing it on, not extremely high volume. I think that was an outlier game. So I think at 14% ownership, I'm still likely to be under the field on Eckler coming in. We have him optimal 7% of the time at 14% ownership. So just doesn't look too great there. You like any of these guys?
Yeah, I love Dalvin Cook. I really do this week because when you look at over the metrics and you look at what he's done thus far, it's not like he's been dreadful. He hasn't been particularly good. Don't get me wrong. And he only has 1 rushing touchdown on the year, but he's still averaging right around 4.5 yards per attempt. It's so possible that he still has huge games. Look, think of it this way. He still had 22 touches in week 4. He had 22 touches in week 4. It's not like he's being phased out for more Alexander Madison or something like that.
No.
And now you come into Chicago against the Bears team that has already allowed 143 rush attempts against because their offense stinks and their run defense is not potent whatsoever. You're 7-point favorites at home. So yeah, I mean, if there was ever the 3 touchdown Dalvin Cook game, this one feels like it could certainly be it. Now, I don't think 11% is all that high.
No, it's not high, especially at 7,300. The price tag is just too low for Dalvin Cook's involvement. And especially in this matchup with the Bears, I love the spot for Dalvin Cook this week. I think I'll probably be well over the field on Dalvin Cook. We also, you had mentioned Christian McCaffrey. The Panthers only have a 16.25 implied total against the Niners. That defense is just really good. So I'm not expecting much out of Christian McCaffrey, but he is Christian McCaffrey. He's the kind of guy that can do it against any defense, any week. We have him projected for 10% ownership, optimal 8% of the time. I think I'd rather go to Cook, like almost in a vacuum. I think I prefer Cook just in terms of like my raw fantasy points expectation. That's probably incorrect. I'm sure I could look at our projections and see that it's wrong, but I feel like at least the ceiling is similar for both. So I think I'd prefer to just go to Cook over McCaffrey, but he looks fine at 10% ownership, 8,500. He's just so involved, even against the San Francisco defense. I'm probably okay eating some of that Christian McCaffrey as well. I want to point out a couple of things that Marcos and Paro just said in chat. The first being that Alex posted an article. I hadn't seen that Alex posted this article. He had talked about it on a previous On the Contrary, that he was doing some research into whether you should double stack in the largest field tournaments. And he was saying that he recommends generally double stacking in the largest field tournaments, which was a little bit counterintuitive to me. I thought, because you need that higher ceiling in like a milli, maybe you don't want to double stack. You want to hope that all the volume goes to one receiver with your quarterback, but I will trust Alex's research. So I'm glad that article is out. I'm definitely going to check that out. And then Marcos also said, it's good to point out that ownership could definitely change. And yeah, that's absolutely true. This is Wednesday. This is kind of the first look at ownership show. We'll do several shows throughout the week where we talk about, ownership and how it changes our perspective on things. This is just kind of for now, the first look before we have, injuries will come out. Things are going to change between now and Sunday. But this is how we're seeing things right now.
I mentioned to Ben yesterday that Derrick Henry was a very interesting play because, yes, it's a small sample, but 24% target share over the last 2 weeks. And I couldn't tell you if it's sustainable, Neil, but I can tell you that it's not shocking when you consider that there's no AJ Brown. Robert Woods is your number 1 receiver. He's a fine number 2, but he's also coming off the ACL. He has looked better, but then even look at Treylon Burks. He's doubtful. He's not expected to play. He's got turf toe. Nick Westbrook-Akina, Kyle Phillips. These are your pass catchers on this team. Jeff Swain, Austin Hooper. It's not shocking to see that Derrick Henry has been more involved in the offense as a pass catcher, because much to the surprise of probably a lot of people who just assume that he's not capable of doing it, he is capable of catching passes. He's really not that bad in that respect at all. So ultimately, if I'm looking at Derrick Henry and he's coming in single digit ownership right now against the Washington team that's had a couple games where they've been absolutely tuned up in the run game, I can't help but have some interest here. Derrick Henry over the last 2 games has ran 24 routes. Might not seem like a lot, but it is, especially when you've been targeted on 10 of them. PFF has 10. Everywhere else has 11. So one of them probably a throwaway. Point remains though.
Yeah, no, Derrick Henry is interesting. And it's not like we haven't seen this before. We saw at the beginning of last season, it looked like he was going to be this involved before he kind of fell off in terms of the passing game. But, they've used him in the passing game 4 periods before. They seem to be using him right now. So we can at least hope that that they can maintain that kind of pass volume that we've seen the past couple of weeks. But even if they don't, as you said, this Commanders defense, they are better against the rush. In terms of rush DVOA, they are 6th overall. They're 30th in terms of pass DVOA. So at least the Titans should be able to move the ball. And honestly, it's Derrick Henry. He can do it against anybody. So at 9% ownership, I'm definitely interested in Derrick Henry. We have him optimal 11.4% of the time. So some positive leverage in terms of his optimal odds versus ownership. He's less expensive than Christian McCaffrey in a much better matchup. So he's another player that I think I might like better in a vacuum than Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah. And like when Henry gets going, it doesn't even matter because the Colts are 2nd in run defense.
Exactly. Who can stop Derrick Henry? Yeah.
Yeah. He's just got to Derrick Henry's got to wear a defense down. Yeah. But I guess what I'm saying is if he's getting 4 to 6 targets a game, that raises his ceiling exponentially. And really his floor too. But, so we'll see. But it's a loaded running back position this week. I think you could look across the board and make an argument for so many of these guys that are sub 10%. Nick Chubb's the RB1 through 4 weeks. He lacks pass catching upside. That's rough, but Dameon Pierce just ran all over that Chargers team, and Chubb's probably going to get another 20 carries if this game stays close. Then you have this Patriots backfield, which is really interesting to me because the Detroit Lions have been not just bad, but dreadful as far as run defense goes. Neil, they've allowed 10 rushing touchdowns already on the season, 5.6 yards per attempt. It's insane how bad this run defense has been for the Lions.
It's such a bad run defense. And, I'm always in on these Patriots running backs when they're not going to get ownership and they're in a good matchup. Ramondre Stevenson at 5,500. He got more of the snaps last week than Damian Harris. He saw more routes. It's a split backfield. So people don't want to play the split backfield, but at 5,500, even if he does get just half the work, and I think there's, it's going to go one way or the other. Every week, it's probably going to be different who leads the backfield. It's unlikely that both Ramondre Stevenson and Damian Harris work out, but I think that it's fairly likely that one of them has a usable game at the very least, and potentially even a spike week game. We've got Ramondre Stevenson at 6% ownership with a 14% chance of being in the optimal lineup. That is massive positive leverage on Ramondre Stevenson. Yeah, he looks great in the boom bust.
Wow, 14% on a 12-game slate in a split backfield.
I know but then Damian Harris also looks pretty good. 5,600. We have him at 5.7% ownership. 9% optimal. So he even has positive leverage as well. I probably don't want both of them in the same lineup too often. So you could maybe group them out if you're using an optimizer, maybe group them out or give a negative boost to one of them if you use the other, that kind of thing. But they're both certainly capable of having those spike weeks. I like both of them this week.
So do I. And I'll tell you what, I actually like Stevenson more. I liked Stevenson more last week. Harris ended up, I believe Harris got into the end zone, right? Stevenson didn't.
Oh, did he?
Maybe not. Maybe I'm wrong there.
I think he might be right.
He might not have. For some reason, I thought he did. Yeah, he did.
Okay.
But Harris had 18 carries. He had 1 reception on 1 target for -2 yards. That's 19 total looks. Not bad. We knew they were going to run against this Packers team. It was the only way that they could keep pace.
Mm-hmm.
The pick 6 was insane. Rodgers throwing a pick 6 at Lambeau was insane.
Yeah.
And Bailey Zappi took a clear delay of game penalty. clear. I mean, I'm talking 2 seconds. Snap the ball, threw it to Devontae Parker for a touchdown. They didn't call it. Whatever. Fact of the matter is, they ran the ball a good amount. But while Damian Harris had 19 total looks, 18 of them were carries. We know targets are worth more than rushing attempts. We also know that Bill Belichick is more than willing to go with heavier Ramondre Stevenson if he's playing well. Stevenson had 14 carries and 5 targets, 19 looks, and 5 of those are targets. That really stands out to me as an interesting spot, especially if Detroit, who, believe it or not, has the highest scoring offense in the league right now at 35 points per game, continues to put up numbers. So yeah, the pass catching upside. I mean, if you could tell me I'm getting anywhere between 12 and 14 carries, 4 or 5 targets per game on Stevenson against the Lions, I'm in all the time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, I like Stevenson better in a vacuum too. Not even in a vacuum. I like Stevenson better this week. I like both of them. I'm probably going to be playing Harris too, especially on DraftKings. Those targets are just really valuable because it's point per reception. And that was kind of the hype this summer, was that Stevenson was going to be really involved in the passing game. He was going to be kind of taking over that James White role. And then of course the first game we saw Ty Montgomery still kind of playing the James White role, but he's out now, and Stevenson finally does seem to be sort of jumping into that spot. So I really like Stevenson this week.
Real quick.
Yeah.
Matt Sessions. Thank you for bringing that up. I actually had that pulled up and I forgot to mention it. Yes. Harris definitely has the advantage in the red zone, but he has 3 goal line carries this year to Stevenson's 2. So it's not that far off at all. He has 5 inside the 10 to Stevenson's 2. So he's benefited there. I don't know how much of that was just like a Damian Harris drive. And if it was a Stevenson drive, he would have gotten 2 more. But yeah, 3-2. It's just Harris has punched all 3 of those in inside the goal line or inside the 5. And Stevenson has punched in 1 of 2. But just mind you, Stevenson is still getting goal line work. It's not that he's completely incapable of getting some of those shots.
Yeah. I see. Who was it? Somebody just said Stevenson is, Coop 88 says Stevenson is Chubb to Harris's Hunt. And I can kind of see it. They're kind of a poor man's version, I would say, of the Browns backfield, but a poor man's version that I like to go to at cheaper salaries. I really like Stephen Leibowitz also had already brought up Kareem Hunt. I have interest in Kareem Hunt as well. We talked about Nick Chubb being kind of interesting this week. Kareem Hunt at 6,000 is still going to interest me. 2.2% ownership, 3.4% optimal. We know he always has that spike week upside as well. So yeah, the Browns definitely a backfield that I'm interested in, but the Patriots just so much cheaper. Just the price tags are right. So I like all 4 of those guys.
No doubt. All right. Other low on guys, then we can talk some wide receivers here. What do you want to do with, the Jeff Wilsons and the James Robinsons? Any of those guys appeal to you? That we haven't, anyone we haven't talked about really?
So James Robinson, I think, is certainly interesting against that Texans D. Just not a great defense. The Jaguars expected to win this game, so they should be in a game script where James Robinson will be running a lot. Of course, I've been out on him all year, so don't play him this week because I'm probably going to play him, and I'm just going to be wrong every week probably on James Robinson. Jeff Wilson, I don't know. 8% ownership seems fine on Jeff Wilson. He did get a lot of the volume, more of the volume than I was hoping he would get in this past game. And he actually looks really good in the boom bust tool. So maybe I should just accept that Jeff Wilson is going to be a thing. 8.2% projected ownership. We have him optimal 14.5% of the time. So he's another guy with some massive positive leverage in the boom bust tool at 5,500. Another one of those guys in that kind of price range that you can sort of mix and match. A lot of these guys are looking pretty good. So yeah, Jeff Wilson, definitely interesting. Breece Hall, sort of interesting. 4.7% ownership, 5,400 in a matchup with, where do we, I've lost Breece Hall in my notes. In a matchup with the Dolphins, who are 31st in terms of pass DVOA and 4th in terms of rush DVOA. So not exactly a great running spot, more of a pass funnel defense, but he's talented. 5% ownership. I'll probably be willing to eat that. And then on the other side of it, Raheem Mostert, we've got only 3% projected ownership versus the Jets defense, which is much worse. 29th in terms of pass DVOA, 14th in terms of rush DVOA. So Raheem Mostert looks kind of interesting. Just a lot of really interesting running backs at pretty low salary this weekend.
I'll tell you, man, you guys know there are certain certain running backs that I will stick with for a long time because I think they're actually good and that they get low ownership every week. It pains me to see Ben Rossa getting the credit for the Miles Sanders call. Deservedly so, too. He did. He did.
Yeah.
But I've been on low-owned Miles Sanders for 2.5 years now. And
this weekend, you decide I'm not gonna say anything about Miles Sanders. You know how I feel, and then Ben jumps in and takes the credit. He's the hero.
Right.
Sorry, Laffy. Yeah, but it worked out great for Ben.
Oh yeah.
It was fun to see. And you had him in your lineups, right? So you gotta.
Oh yeah, definitely played him. I just didn't want to do the people dirty anymore. You know, but I think most people understand he's pretty good. The reason I bring that up though is like Rashad Penny is another guy who is good. The guy can, if he gets into the second level, he's gone. He showed us a lot when he's healthy that he's pretty damn good. You mentioned Raheem Mostert. This is where I'm going with this. Mostert's another one of those guys, Larry C., but you jumped off. It was an illusion, man. You should have looked into my eyes and known what was happening, Larry. Mostert's another one of these guys that is actually not that bad. He also might be faster than Tyreek Hill. He might be. Very close. So? Very close.
All right.
Dude, yeah, Raheem Mostert's fast as
He's
fuck.
very fast. Oh yeah. No doubt.
He's very fast. Probably not Tyreek Hill, but 3 years ago, the two fastest plays, according to NFL Next Gen Stats, the two fastest plays of anyone in the league throughout the entire season were both Raheem Mostert.
I think Raheem Mostert may have actually challenged Tyreek Hill on Twitter at one point. I think there might have been somebody talking about Cheetah being the fastest player in the league, and he may have posted something about like, "Oh, you want to race?" or something like that. I could be wrong. This is before they were teammates too. I might be misremembering. But
Jalen Waddle on a podcast just said he was faster than Reek, and he goes, "I'm faster than Mostert too." So they know Mostert's fast.
Ooh, all right.
Yeah, I'd
love to see that race.
A three-way race.
Yeah, 3-man Dolphins race. I'm all in on that.
Yeah, man.
All right.
Oh, real quick.
Yeah.
Yes, Coop says very brittle as well. Well, as you could see, there's a pattern here with the guys that I really like that are always low on. They're usually they get injured a lot. Penny, Mostert, Sanders is usually banged up and misses some games with an ankle or a hammy or something. So yeah, but it suppresses ownership and people kind of forget that they're actually good is what I'm saying.
Yeah. A couple things I want to. So Ryan Stamazzi says that was Marquise Goodwin who challenged Tyreek Hill. Yeah, that might be the case. That might be. I'm misremembering who it was. A couple of people are bringing up Tyler Algier earlier. It looks like Cordarrelle Patterson is going to be out this weekend. Still not a great matchup for Tyler Algier, but I'm guessing the price. I haven't actually looked. Let me look at his price tag. The price is probably right to play some Tyler Algier, and I guess the Buccaneers are 17th in terms of rush DVOA so far. So not as good as I think of the Bucs as being. Tyler Algier at 4,700 is somebody that you can play. Probably that ownership is going to come up later on in the week. I guess we'll have to wait and see. And then somebody else was asking about Brian Robinson. I think it's too soon to play Brian Robinson this weekend. Probably he's expected to play, but I'm probably not going to be playing him in his first game back. Do you think you're going to play any Brian Robinson this weekend, Laffy?
No.
They're probably just going to ease him in is my expectation. We could be wrong, but that's what I would expect.
I know he's getting no ownership, but I'd be kind of shocked if he was immediately just back in the mix as the starter, clear starter. What's his price?
Let me see.
He's 48.
48, yeah.
I don't see a ton of need to go there.
Because we've got a lot of good options like that are not much more expensive than him. And yeah, I just think that the volatility is too much there for Brian Robinson. And I don't think he has the same ceiling as a lot of these other guys we're talking about. And he's not that much cheaper.
So Hill ran a 4.2940, Waddle 4.37, Mostert 4.38.
All right.
Very fast. Just got to get him in space. But I will say Mostert's a super volatile option today, or this week, super risky, because who knows? Maybe it's Chase Edmonds back. I don't think Chase Edmonds any good though. Been saying that since the beginning of last year when James Conner was, you knew he was going to vulture those touchdowns. Wouldn't shock me if Mostert does come in and get a good amount of work. So, inexpensive, low ownership, not the craziest thing. You want to move on to wide receivers?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. And someone asked what Mostert's ownership was. I like I said, 3 free days. If you're a new user, 3 free days, Stokastic Plus NFL, all of our tools. You get the ownership, the boom bust tool that Neil's referring to a second ago. the top stack tool, projections, all the showdown stuff, the top plays tool, which is a massive advantage if you're getting in these huge prize pool contests, or if you want all of our sports. You got playoff baseball coming up, you have basketball coming up, you got football, hockey, PGA, NASCAR, MMA. So any fantasy sport that they have contests for, we have content for it. Use the promo code. Is it NFL ownership on this one, Tyler? Right? NFL ownership, all caps, all one word. That gets you 50% off the week on everything, right? Everything, not Fantasy Country, because we just host their product. We don't own it, but you can get that add-on. Every single sport, every single tool, 50% off. DFS ownership. These tools created by Alex Baker himself, Awesemo himself. And you've seen the money that people have won with them. So if you want to jump in, you got 50% off there, or you want our NFL tools for 3 days completely free, just use the links in the description or in the chat. All right. Wide receivers, Neil. Talk to me about old Stefan Diggs here at 14%. Or sorry, 18%.
Yeah, so I think the biggest concern, the biggest worry with playing Stefan Diggs this weekend is the matchup. The Steelers might not put up any points. The Bills might be up 30-0 at halftime, and then Stefan Diggs just doesn't play much in the second half. I'm being hyperbolic a little bit, but it's a matchup where they should win pretty handily. What is it, a 14-point spread between the Bills and the Steelers, which is not great for the pass catchers. I guess it kind of makes the running backs a little bit more interesting. We didn't talk about them. I hadn't thought about it previously, but maybe you could even try out the running back, try out a Devin Singletary. But, it's a tough spot just because it's likely not going to be a pass script kind of a game for the Bills. They do have a 14-point spread, 30.5 implied total to the Steelers, 16.5. Of course, that 30.5 implied team total still suggests that the Bills are going to put up plenty of points, which means somebody's going to have to be scoring, and Stefan Diggs is as likely as anybody. He looks good in terms of our boom bust tool. We've got him at 17.5% ownership, booming 17.3% of the time, which is a pretty high percentage for a player who's 8,400, and then optimal 15.3% of the time. So slight negative leverage, but I mean, he's Stefan Diggs. That secondary is not going to be able to stop him. So, really the only big worry is that they might not have to pass that much in the second half. And there are other options in Buffalo who could potentially get involved at some point. But so far it's been largely the Diggs show. So yeah, he looks pretty good this weekend.
Tyler, we'll get Cody squared away here, because he said he did the MGM for 2 free months of Stokastic and he hasn't gotten it. Yeah, thanks, man. All right. Because that's a damn good deal. All right. I feel like we're on another slate, kind of deja vu from last season or from last week when you and I had a similar conversation, Neil, where it's like, there are obviously a lot of good plays on a 12-game slate. There are always going to be, but you have a decent amount of top tier players that aren't going to be on this slate either, which to me always makes it a little bit more interesting. Cooper Kupp's at 17%. He's insanely expensive, but you're coming off a 14 reception, 19 target game. The one guy I'm shocked that he's getting this much ownership, and I really thought I'd be able to get him lower owned because of the situation in Miami. I didn't think Tyreek Hill was going to be similar ownership to Cooper Kupp and Stefan Diggs. I thought people go, he's a little too expensive. Teddy Bridgewater isn't Tua. I'm going to fade him. But man, it feels like one of those spots where Tyreek Hill could go crazy no matter who's at quarterback against the Jets.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, is Teddy Bridgewater that big of a step back from Tua? I mean, I know Tua's a talented guy, but Teddy Bridgewater is not a bad quarterback. He's probably
Tua
one of
just
the better.
Very good in the first.
He did look very good. So maybe
it's a
I
small
am
sample,
underrating
really good.
the drop down. Yeah, I think that Teddy Bridgewater is a talented quarterback as well. I agree with you that he's not as good as Tua. I think that Tua did look really good this year. I just think as far as backup quarterbacks go, I think Teddy Bridgewater is a pretty solid one. So I don't really mind the drop down, especially because, part of the appeal of this team is just as we've been talking about, all of these weapons are so fast that you don't necessarily need to be throwing it very far. You could do, some shorter throws and let them do the work after the catch. So yeah, Tyreek Hill looks great. As you said, getting 17% ownership though, which looks a little bit over-owned in our tools. We have him optimal 11.3% of the time, booming 12.9% of the time. Still, he's Tyreek Hill. He can obviously do it any week. He's not a huge priority for me, but he's a player that, I'm not going to mind if I have 8,000 left over, put him in some lineups. I wouldn't even mind doing some Miami stacks. I think it makes some sense to do as well this weekend if people aren't going to be on Teddy. So yeah, I like the call on Tyreek Hill. I had been assuming that you were going to get to Chris Olave as a guy who you were surprised at the ownership. But Chris Olave looks pretty good.
I think that's because we're probably projecting Michael Thomas out or just have him like with very few fantasy points right now, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think we're expecting Michael Thomas to be out, and it is a great matchup. So I'm not shocked by the ownership. I like Chris Olave a lot this weekend against the Seahawks, 32nd ranked pass defense in terms of pass DVOA. So it's the worst pass defense in the league according to Football Outsiders. The Saints have a 25.5 implied team total. Chris Olave has been just great. He's been very involved from the get-go. So I'm pretty happy to get to Chris Olave at 5,700 in this matchup. 14.5% ownership. We have him optimal 15% of the time. So looks very neutral in the boom bust tool. But as far as 5,700 players go in general and wide receivers, he's about as good as you can get.
We had a question in chat. What do you think about CeeDee Lamb with Michael Gallup back? I still love him. He still had a 30% target share last week.
Yeah,
they're going to need. What's that?
I agree with you. I think that Michael Gallup is, maybe a factor in a tiny bit, but it's not a huge concern for me with CD. I still think that CD is probably the wide receiver one there.
He's definitely the wide receiver one. He's the best receiver on that team for sure.
Yeah.
And 30+% target share on the season. I don't see that. Maybe it drops to 28%, but he's still going to get, not the lion's share, obviously, because he's a receiver, but he's still going to lead the team in target share by far. I'm with you on Chris Olave, no doubt. That this ownership is definitely operating under the assumption that Michael Thomas doesn't play. Has to be, because if Thomas is playing, I don't think it'll be that high. The one that I was kind of shocked to see, I'm surprised Drake London is getting as much ownership as he is this week against Tampa.
Yeah, it's a really tough matchup. I wonder if that's just because we're expecting stacks. So we're expecting a lot of Tampa stacks.
Right.
Got to run it back with somebody. So maybe Drake London gets a little bit of steam there, but it's not a great matchup for Drake London. 5,900. The price tag seems about right. But yeah, he looks fairly neutral in the boom bust tool. 11.7% ownership, optimal 11.8% of the time. So I don't hate the Drake London play. It's just not, he's not somebody that just jumps off the page at me as somebody that I really want to play. But yeah, the Buccaneers third in terms of pass DVOA, so it's a really tough spot. Maybe he's just talented enough that he could do it against any defense, but certainly not my favorite matchup. Not one of the first wide receivers I want to put in my lineups.
It's kind of crazy to me that we got someone like Tom Brady, and we'll talk about top stacks at the end of the show. We do that every single week, best part of the show, so stick around for that. I'm surprised that the Mike Evans and Godwin aren't getting more ownership in this matchup, because Brady's getting 10%. Right now we have him as the second highest owned quarterback, but Mike Evans 11%, Chris Godwin 7%, Julio Jones got nicked up again. The guy, it's so sad to say, because I'm a huge Julio Jones fan. Seems like we're nearing the end there. We really have been, actually.
Yeah, for 3 years now.
Yeah, crawling to the end. But those two guys at that ownership, I've got to tell you, I don't think the situation in Tampa is as dire as people are making it out to be. Packers, you face the good Packers secondary with basically no offensive weapons, and you faced the New Orleans Saints, who always play Tom Brady remarkably well. You had no offensive weapons to speak of there because Mike Evans got booted midway through that one, and everybody else was out. Now you've got the Atlanta Falcons. Yeah, they've shored up their secondary a little bit. They've played, pretty well, but I would be pretty surprised if Tom Brady isn't able to put up some numbers here along with his pass catchers.
Yeah, you got to imagine that Tom Brady is pretty mad too that Zach Wilson slept with Giselle. So this one, he's coming out with a vengeance. We've got Chris. No, I'm joking. They're getting divorced. The rumors are that they've hired divorce lawyers, Tom and Giselle. Yeah, so that's
I
the
need to
rumors
be
this week, and everybody's speculating that, of course, Zach Wilson's going to move in on her now.
interesting. Zach Wilson, huh? Is there a reason for that?
I mean, do you not remember the story of Zach Wilson supposedly sleeping with one of his mom's friends? We call him the MILF
No,
hunter.
I'm not. I need
You're not a gossip guy, are you?
I need to do a better job with gossip and
Don't
pop
spend enough
culture.
time on Twitter, Laffy.
What?
You don't spend enough time on Twitter, clearly.
That is the problem.
Yeah.
That is the problem. Yeah. No, I didn't know that. Wasn't Zach Wilson's mom the one that was, like
She's pretty attractive. Yeah.
throwing scandalous shit out there on the TikToks and stuff?
Yep. That's probably her. Honestly, I don't pay
Maybe,
that close of attention unless it gets on Twitter.
Yeah, I might be misrepresenting her, but I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay. So Zach Wilson and Giselle.
Yeah. So
Nice.
anyway, getting back to the pass catchers that you wanted to talk about. Yeah, Chris Godwin and Russell Gage, two of our top 3 positively leveraged wide receivers on the entire slate. Godwin at 5,900. We have him owned 7% of the time, optimal 20.5% of the time. That is just massive positive leverage on Chris Godwin at 5,900. I mean, he's a guy that should be 7,500, kind of like somewhere in that range, probably. I don't against this Atlanta defense, especially just. I think the talent, he has the talent just to be, against a neutral team, 7,500. Now he's playing against the Falcons. He's just too cheap at 5,900. Yeah, I really like Chris Godwin this week. And then Russell Gage also 1.9% projected ownership, optimal 8.9% of the time. He's only 4,900 going against his former team. I guess it's a revenge game. And then, you can always play Mike Evans. I mean, we saw how involved he was in their last game. He's just one of the best receivers in the game. Where do we have him in terms of ownership?
11%
ownership. We have him a little bit over-owned at his 6,900 price tag, but the matchup is great for Mike Evans. Obviously, you can go there. We have him optimal 7.5% of the time. That's fine. I'm still going to play some Mike Evans.
I think that the ownership probably changes too. I can't imagine Godwin at 5,900 coming back playing 83% of snaps in week 1. Or even week 4, sorry. I can't imagine he's that low owned. It just seems insane.
Yeah. He had the injury scared in their last game. So I don't know if that factors in at all. People are worried after seeing that. But he's probably going to come up in ownership, but probably not enough. I mean, if he's at 7% right now, even if he gets up to double that, 14% ownership, he'll be too low owned. So he's going to look great regardless, I think, by Sunday.
And he's not on the injury report. So
okay.
What are we going to do? Well, we'll just assume that he's good to go.
Yeah.
Any other low-owned guys that stay? I'll give you one. If Jacoby Myers is back, I don't think it's the craziest play, only because Detroit's that bad. Justin Jefferson is what I wanted your opinion on, though. 7% right now.
I mean, I love Justin Jefferson. If you can get Justin Jefferson at 7% ownership, the Vikings have a 25.5 implied team total. The Bears are 15th in terms of pass DVOA, so pretty neutral there, 24th in terms of rush DVOA. We just saw Justin Jefferson score a rushing touchdown. No, I'm not factoring that in, but 15th in terms of pass DVOA, 24th in rush means that the Vikings are probably going to be able to move the ball against this Bears defense, and that bodes well for Justin Jefferson. Anytime you can get a player of his caliber at 7% ownership, he's 8,400, significantly cheaper. He's 8,900. Still cheaper than Cooper Kupp. The price is right. I'm definitely in on Justin Jefferson. We have 7.2% ownership, 9.8% optimal. The upside is clearly there. I'm happy to go over the field on Justin Jefferson.
Anybody else?
Let's see here.
We had a super chat from Mikey. If you want to answer this one, thoughts on Deebo Samuel?
Deebo's interesting. The Panthers defense is the better part of their team. So not the best matchup in the world, but also not the worst. I mean, the Panthers are 19th in terms of pass DVOA, 10th in terms of rush DVOA. Deebo's one of those guys you never really know exactly how he's going to do it, but you know that they're going to involve him. They're going to try and get him the ball. So I think Deebo's, probably a player that I'm going to have in my lineup pool any given week. 7,700. The price tag is about where it should be for Deebo. We've got him a little bit over-owned at 13% ownership, 10% optimal. But, again, that's not enough that it's really going to scare me away from Deebo. I think he's talented enough that I'm willing to play him in just about any matchup. As far as other wide receiver pivots, Marquise Brown is interesting just because of the game environment, because the Cardinals have such a bad pass defense that I would expect the Eagles to put up a lot of points, which means that Marquise, the Cardinals are also going to have to be passing the ball a lot. The Eagles defense has been really good this year, second in terms of pass DVOA. So not a great spot for Marquise Brown, but at 4% ownership, just given the game environment where it could potentially go off, I don't mind going to some Marquise Brown. Do you think I'm crazy to go there against the Eagles?
No, not at all. No, I don't think so at all. I could see that game shooting out for sure. And it currently has the highest total on the slate.
Yeah.
It's the highest total of any game on the slate. It's at 49.5. So no, and Stephen Leibowitz mentioned that Devonta Smith is 3% on. Yeah, listen, Devonta Smith is probably one of the most volatile wide receivers out there. Just in terms like range of outcomes wise, you could be getting a 3 from him or a 30 from him. And
what's his price tag, man?
And with the Eagles, I've said this every week, they can attack you in so many different ways. Like they were throwing deep downfield in week 3. They threw a lot of balls deep downfield in weeks 1 and 2. Week 4, the elements were bad. So you'd say, oh, well, that's why they weren't throwing downfield. Yeah, obviously, but they also ran for 200 yards. They're multifaceted. It's like a 3-pronged approach that they can take, whether it's downfield, whether it's, getting the ball out to AJ Brown and Dallas Goedert, letting them pick up yards after the catch. You have the RPO with Jalen Hurts, so he can kill you on the ground. Sanders can kill you on the ground. They have change of pace guys in Gainwell. There's so many different ways. That's why I think you're always going to see this low ownership on guys like Devonta Smith, but I don't think it's insane at all to say, hey, we know that he can go up there and he has that my ball mentality. He could, 2 touchdown game, 120 yards. Sure, it's possible. It's just he could also give you 2 receptions for 5 yards as well.
I mean, but that's great for a large field GPP.
Right.
And that's why we get that 3% ownership. Yeah, Devonta Smith looks really interesting against this Cardinals defense, 28th in terms of pass DVOA, one of the worst pass defenses in the league. So I don't mind eating some of that. I'll probably be above the field, probably at least double the field on Devonta Smith, to be honest. If he's at 3% ownership, I'll be above the field for sure. I really like the game environment.
It is a good game environment. Definitely a good stack environment for sure. Okay, let's talk about tight ends here. Before we do, though, shout out to our sponsor. We can't do these shows without our sponsors. And fortunately, we have good ones and not just shitty ones that we don't want to talk about. But Prize Picks is killing the game right now, and in a good way, because they've kind of revolutionized the way you could, it's not betting, it's not DFS, but it's kind of both, and if you're in non-betting states, this is huge. Because you're just building lineups, which, in a traditional book would be considered a parlay. But in this case, there's no over or there's no juice on either side. It's just you're betting you're taking the over or the under, putting it into a lineup, 2 through 5 props. If you hit 5, you're 10xing your money. You hit 4, you still 2x, which unlike traditional books with parlays, you're done. You miss out on a leg. You lose a leg of a parlay. Even at 3 out of 5, you're still making money back. Or you can do the power play. Say you're not as risk averse as others. You go, no, you know what? I'm going for it. If you hit all 4, you 10x. Of course, you don't make money back on 3 of 4, but in the power play, 10x on 4 of 4. And if you know multiple sports, I always use guys like Matt Kajeski and Ben Ross as perfect examples for this. Because if you're familiar and you're confident in certain sports, or you just want to use all of our tools, like Odds Shopper is free. Our player prop tool is free to help you get that edge. You could go and build a 5 prop lineup, throw it in, and 2 of them could be college football, 2 of them could be NFL, 1 of them could be baseball. You can mix and match and do cross-sport entries across all of this. So very good stuff. But I didn't mention the best part. I just told you why it's actually worth playing there, because otherwise I'd be doing you guys dirty. 1 free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum. Everything on the site, every tool. When you use the link in the description, or Tyler can throw the link in the chat as well, 1 free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum, every tool, every sport on the site, when you use that link, and up to $100 deposit bonus on Prize Picks. Right. Need I say more, Neil?
No, it's just a great deal. Sign up, get some free Stokastic tools. Win-win.
It legitimately is a fantastic deal. So
You're expecting me to say more there, weren't you? You're taking a sip of your water, waiting for me to keep going, and I just
no,
didn't.
I like long pauses sometimes.
Okay. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I like dramatic pause.
Of course.
Anyway, prizepicks.com. You can also use the link first so you can get the free month and you can get the $100 deposit match bonus. But you can download the app as well in the Google Play Store, the App Store, whichever it is, or you could desktop, whatever you want. So prizepicks.com, sponsor of the strategy show. Let's rip through tight ends real fast here. I don't know how we can look at Kyle Pitts right now and take any solace in knowing that he's 12% owned.
I'll have Kyle Pitts. I'll play Kyle Pitts even at that 12%. The price keeps coming down. He's going to be $500 at one point. He's going to be one of those players that they put below the minimum just to tempt you, because he never gets it done and you always want to play him. But I think I'm still willing to go there with Kyle Pitts, even in a tough matchup, just because I expect that Atlanta is going to have to be throwing the ball a lot, because I'm expecting Tampa Bay to put up a lot of points. At 4,400, I think I'm probably willing to eat that. I'll probably even be above the field. I'm going to trust the boom bust tool. Still thinks that he is under owned at 12.4%, 14% optimal, 14% boom odds at 12.4% ownership. The price 4,400 for Kyle Pitts. I mean, come on, that feels low for Kyle Pitts, except that it doesn't, because he has not done anything. I don't know. It's a tough spot. I wish that they would have just priced him up to like 6,000 so I didn't have to think about playing Kyle Pitts, but I think they're probably gonna have to be throwing the ball at 4,400. I'll take some shots. Are you just completely out at this point?
No, I get it, because you bring up the most, salient point is that he's 4,400, but we could be going into week 8 and going, oh yeah, 4,400 seemed right. I don't know. I don't think it is. I think that I want to go there. I got to ask you this. So because you're not on Twitter, a lot of people are talking about it in chat right now. The home run ball for Aaron Judge. You saw the guy, he hit the home run, and a guy in the stands caught it, and a guy about 10 feet over had jumped down into the bullpen. Did you see that? No.
And I love the move.
I am on Twitter, by the way. I'm just not on Twitter like an Adam Scher is on.
Yeah,
Twitter.
yeah.
I think he lives there.
He does live. I'm kind of closer to Adam Scher. I think I live on Twitter a lot more than you do. But so Adam actually posted the video that he thought it was a smart move, and I did too. The guy about 10 feet over, so like he had no chance of catching the ball, jumped down into the bullpen just in case the guys above dropped it and it fell down into the bullpen. He would get the home run ball. Of course, the guy in the stands caught it, and he looked like an idiot and was escorted out of Yankee Stadium. But all the same. I don't know if it was in Yankee Stadium.
Brilliant move, though.
I think it was a really sharp move, to be honest. I think that was the play.
Yeah. Well, when did he do this?
What do you mean? It was last night.
No. I know the home run was. What I'm saying is, did he jump down there as the ball was in flight?
Yeah. So he saw it like as the ball was getting to the guy.
And he had no chance.
Over.
And he had
no chance at the ball. It was clear at that point that the ball was not coming to him. So he jumped down into the bullpen, hoping that it dropped down. I thought it was really sharp. Whether they would have let him keep it if he did get the ball in the bullpen is another question. I have no idea.
I would have. Yeah, you're fighting somebody if they try and take it away from you.
Yeah, right. I mean, that's a multi-million-dollar ball. Somebody else was saying that the guy who caught it has already been offered $2 million for it.
Which is nuts.
Yeah.
If you have and by the way, I'm taking that you play hardball, sure, but I'm selling that baseball.
Yes.
I couldn't give two shits about, would that be awesome to have sitting up there? Yeah. Would it be better to have $2 million? Yeah.
And that's probably not even the final offer. He's probably going to get,
right. So he's holding out. Yeah. He's driving a hard bargain. I get that. I get that. If he had a friend up there and he got it in the bullpen, throw it up to the friend and run. I'll be honest with you. I'm surprised. I wonder, did the guy who caught it get escorted out of the building?
He did. Yep. He was escorted out. He was,
because you'll get killed for that.
Yeah. And then we had Darren Rovell coming out and being like, this guy is a vice president of this huge corporation. And then I think it was the wrong guy. I haven't followed it that closely. It appeared that he was not even the same guy that Darren Rovell was tweeting about.
Oh, God. He's probably like a carpenter or something.
Right. I mean, they were expensive seats. People were there trying to get the home run ball. So I think that he's probably got some money, but I don't think he's the same guy.
Think about the ROI on that ticket purchase.
Right, man.
I'll definitely watch it. That's pretty cool, though. Hey, Kickstart, you didn't miss the show because you can just rewind it, or you can watch it after the fact. But nice to see you, man.
Good to see you.
All right. Why don't we talk about a couple of these other tight ends? I think Goddard's a very strong play. Arizona gets carved up by tight ends. Sure, they face some good ones this week. But I can't lie. Higbee has a massive target share. I talked about this on the betting channel for Monday Night Football that I was going over 4.5 receptions at even money, plus money in some spots. He's getting a lot of work. Then you've got guys like Njoku who's coming off 2 nice high target share games. And the last one, Neil, I want to get your take on tight end in general. The last one, I'm probably going to keep taking some shots on 4% Dawson Knox because the 2 touchdown game when you're playing with Josh Allen against the Steelers as 14-point favorites, it's still possible. And he's going to become one of my Miles Sanders or Raheem Mostert's or Rashad Penny until it happens. But it feels like that ownership and price is too low.
I was going to bring up Dawson Knox as I have the same feeling. 3,600 Dawson Knox against Pittsburgh could dud like he has been, but as you say, could easily have a multi-touchdown game. He's probably going to have a multi-touchdown game at some point this year. I think that this week is as likely as any, and he's 3,600. So yeah, sign me up for some Dawson Knox. Yeah, as you brought up Tyler Higbee. We have to talk about Tyler Higbee because he is just so involved in that offense. It's pretty nuts how much volume he's been getting. It's what we were expecting going into last year. And then last year, it just didn't happen. He just was not all that involved for the most part after having a stretch at the end of the year prior where he was really involved. He kind of fell off last year, but now he's back getting a ton of volume. We have him at 8.9% projected ownership. We have him booming 20% of the time and optimal 17% of the time. So Tyler Higbee is just by far the highest positive leverage play on the slate this week. Man, at some point people are going to have to start playing him so that I don't have to play him all the time. But I guess I was saying that about Cooper Kupp too early last year. And, I was glad the rest of the year that I was able to play him. David Njoku, as you say, looks interesting. 6% ownership, 7% optimal. I'll be playing some Njoku. Gerald Everett, 5.5% ownership, optimal 8.1% of the time. There's just so many interesting tight ends this week. A lot of them look fairly similar to me. They're all around 5% ownership. They all have slight positive leverage, with the exception of Higbee just has that massive positive leverage. Freiermuth, I always have some interest in. Actually, Freiermuth is on the opposite end of this. He looks like he's the one getting ownership where it's a little bit too much ownership relative to his odds of success against the Bills. But Pittsburgh will be needing to throw the ball. And if you're playing those Josh Allen stacks, I guess you're probably going to want, I don't know if I'm going to have a Pittsburgh run back in every Josh Allen stack, but in some of them, I'll probably want one. So maybe Freiermuth is that reasonable run back at 4,100. Hawkinson now getting a ton of ownership after his huge week, but they're not playing the Seahawks this week, so I don't know what to expect there. His price has come up to 4,900. Do you have any interest in TJ Hawkinson this week?
Yeah, I want to know if Amon-Ra St. Brown is going to play. I want to know what this offense looks like for sure. Yeah. But I still think Hawkinson's price is fine. I don't think he's overpriced. He's still sub 5K. He's cheaper than George Kittle, which is crazy.
I know.
But he's not my favorite option this week now.
Yeah, he's not my favorite either. Dallas Goedert also, we've talked about that, the matchup for the Eagles. I just love the game environment. I think Dallas Goedert could have a really great game against the Cardinals. So he's a guy that I'm interested in as well. Maybe I'll play some Zach Ertz on the other side too. Not quite as interesting to me as Goddard. Do you like Goddard this week?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I think Arizona's been carved up by opposing tight ends, and in the middle of the field's not all that impressive for them. I think Goddard's a strong play for sure. One of my favorite tight ends this week, no doubt. I like Goddard a lot.
It's funny that you say it's crazy that TJ Hawkinson is cheaper than George Kittle. Coming into the year, I would have, thought that, George Kittle should be at least 1,000 more than TJ Hawkinson, but he's just not been that involved. Still, I'm like, are you going to full fade George Kittle at 5,200?
Probably. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's reasonable. I think I'll take some shots just because I feel like, George Kittle has gone through stretches before where he's just not involved at all. And then suddenly he jumps back in and he's a big part of the game plan. He's so talented that I sometimes just like to bet on talent, even if the opportunity hasn't been there yet, just because he's been blocking too much. He also did almost score a touchdown this past game. His foot was out of bounds, but they targeted him in the end zone. So I don't know. I'll probably take a few shots on George Kittle. My guess is I'll be over the field.
No, I understand that. It's just, it's sad to see now the role that that he has at this point. You know, it's
Yeah.
certainly nothing close to what it was before, and that sucks. But
One
what
more
are you
name
gonna do?
I'll throw out there. Would you consider playing Taysom Hill at 4,900? If I think we're expecting both Jameis and Alvin Kamara back. So at that point, I wouldn't, I guess. If one of them is out, maybe I'd take a shot on Taysom Hill at 4,900, but it's a pretty thin play. Do you think it's too thin for you?
Yeah. At quarterback, if Dalton's playing or something, you're saying?
So he's listed as a tight end, at least in the boom bust tool
On
on
FanDuel, he
DraftKings.
is. On FanDuel.
Oh, he's not on
quarterback
DraftKings. Okay, we've just got, I guess, got him in the wrong column. Yeah, so I'm not going to consider him at quarterback. I was thinking if he's 4,900 at tight end, I would maybe think about it. If one of those guys is out, but
on FanDuel, I don't think it's crazy. Nah, I don't think it's crazy at all. All right, let's close it out with our top stacks here. Fun segment because we can get a look at everything that's going on, what the top stack probability is, the highest owned stacks, or at least projected to be, what the best rated stacks are. MLB ownership, by the way, completely free today. So are the PGA Top Golfer Tool. MLB Deeper Dive with you, Neil, and Adam. That's at 1:45. Live before locks at 3. So don't show up at 4:45 or 6 o'clock expecting it today. It's all early. Make sure to be there. 1:45. Stick around to lock. MLB Live before locks at 3 o'clock as well. And hey, one more time. Did we get to 100 thumbs? Oh, we're at 110. Good stuff. Already at 110 thumbs up. I was about to ask to get to 100 and we're there. So thanks, guys.
Nice.
Appreciate you. Top stacks. Highest. This is no surprise, right? The highest top stack. Probability. Buffalo 20%. Josh Allen getting currently 12% ownership. He is expensive. So is Diggs. Knox isn't though. Nice little thing there. But I don't know. They're the highest rated stack, and I don't think anybody should be surprised by that. Or sorry, yeah, highest 90 rating in our rating column.
Yeah, I mean they look great. They have a 30.5 implied team total. Really, the only concern is that they might not need to be throwing the ball as much, and Josh Allen might not be running as much in a matchup with Pittsburgh where they have a 14-point spread. But still, yeah, the 20% chance of being the top stack on the board is very high. So Buffalo definitely is interesting this weekend.
What about Philly as a stack? You talked a lot about Arizona and Marquise Brown. We mentioned it's the highest total on the slate. Do you want to get to a good amount of Philly stacks?
Oh yeah, my guess is I'll be way over the field on Eagles stacks just with. I don't know if I'll do double stacks. I might actually against this defense. I might consider doing some. Maybe I'll do a mix of double stacks and just single stacking with one pass catching option. But you can run Jalen Hurts out there with Devontae Smith. You can run him out there obviously with AJ Brown, and then you can also run him out there with Dallas Goedert. So I don't mind. I like Eagles stacks quite a bit in this matchup with Arizona. You hope that Arizona plays a little bit better than they have been, and they can keep the game close with the Eagles. Just so that they're forced to throw it a little bit more, but I like the Eagles stacks quite a bit.
And of course, Tampa has the second highest rating. Jacksonville is up there too. That's an interesting one. Jacksonville. I actually don't mind that at all. Just give it, you could have Zay Jones back. You have Christian Kirk. I'm throwing last game out the window entirely. Lawrence couldn't hold onto the ball, faced a ferocious defensive front from the Eagles. I expect a big bounce back here for sure. That is a very interesting spot if he's really only going to be 4% owned and the stack's going to be low owned.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I definitely have interest in Trevor Lawrence and doing some Jacksonville stacks, especially with Christian Kirk. Maybe even Evan Ingram, throw Evan Ingram into a few of these stacks. I think that Jacksonville, it's an interesting stack. I'll probably be double stacking with Trevor Lawrence. Outside of that, the Chargers are always interesting going up against the Browns defense. I think they, have a good shot to put up a lot of points any given week. The Rams look just like they have massive positive leverage this weekend. 1.8% ownership on Stafford with an 8.4% chance of being the top stack on the field. You're already playing plenty of Cup. Why not just throw Stafford into some stacks with him? I think it makes some sense to go to Ram stacks as well.
I was surprised by that. Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, of course it's not going to be super easy to get to, but not impossible. Actually, it has what's the top value score here, or top value percentage? It's not bad. It's like 4.6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's the 8th highest on the slate. That's not too bad.
Not bad at all.
I will say this is going against the leverage here. This is right now we have it as negative leverage. If Winston plays though, I will almost certainly be getting some Saints stacks in there. And it could be with Alvin Kamara, Chris Olave. It could be with and Michael Thomas. We don't know. It looks like he's probably not going to play, but there's still a lot of ways to stack this Saints team. And after seeing what's happened to the Seattle pass defense, and Jameis is chucking right now. He's been wild Jameis the last 2 weeks he played. That to me is still a spot where I'm willing to say, all right, I will definitely get there. And to be fair, they still have the 5th highest rating in our top stacks tool. So negative leverage in terms of ownership of the quarterback and top stack probability, but still the 5th highest rating in the tool.
Yeah, it's an interesting spot for Jameis. Man, he came out and said, like, I'm hurting everywhere. And I've been a little bit concerned about playing Jameis, but maybe after a week off, he's going to look a little bit fresher this weekend. So I don't mind playing. We saw if Detroit can put up a lot of points on Seattle, I guess that Detroit is pretty good offensively. So I guess that doesn't mean all that much, but I think New Orleans is a pretty talented offense too. So I don't mind doing some Jameis stacks. Would you be doing any stacks that have like just Jameis and Kamara, or are you always going to include a pass receiver in there as well?
Yeah, it's tough to say. I still don't know what Kamara's pass catching role looks like yet.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's a good point.
Hey, Detroit has a great offense, but they were without their 2 best options. Like it was
True.
Josh Reynolds and sure right. Hawkinson was very good, but
yeah,
they did it with a hamstrung offense for sure. All right, let's wrap it up with this. Any other maybe high leverage or contrarian stacks that stand out to you that could be spots to win us tournaments this week?
Yeah, throughout the Vikings against the Bears look good. Another positive leverage spot. We have Kirk Cousins at only 2.9% ownership. We have the Vikings being the top stack 6.6% of the time. Obviously, we talked about Justin Jefferson as a guy I like. Adam Thielen is always in play. Irv Smith is in play. You could maybe consider playing KJ Osborne, although he hasn't been as involved as I would have hoped this year. He did have that game-winning touchdown. So I guess I'd throw Minnesota out there as another offense that I have some interest in. We talked about Miami a little bit. You can obviously throw out Teddy with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle is kind of interesting. Arizona, I guess, again, I loved Kyler Murray last week and he was fine. He wasn't really a world beater, obviously not the quarterback you needed. I think that in this matchup, just because it could be such a shootout, once again, Kyler Murray coming in under 2% projected ownership, 4.4% chance of being the top stack on the board. So I really like the Philadelphia side. I'll have some of the Arizona side as well.
Hey, follow Neil at Player Q DFS on Twitter and stick around. He'll be on MLB Deeper Dive. More importantly, though, NFL on the contrary, 11 o'clock every Friday. Neil's holding that one down, hosting it with Alex. They got our old friend Chris Spags hanging out this week, so don't miss that either. Follow me at Lafay_D, LOUGHY_D. Much to Neil's surprise, I am on Twitter. Just not as much as like 90% of
I know that you're on there. I know that you're on there. You're just not like active.
I don't live
as much as some
I don't
of us.
have a home there. I rent.
Right.
But anyway, appreciate you guys as always. We'll catch you back here shortly on the strategy show tomorrow, marathon matchup show, 11 Eastern. And thanks to Tyler Zander for producing. Peace.